You know, I've been on the campaign trail with Bernie. I've been seeing a whole lot of 20-somethings and 30-somethings. But I tell you, it's really good to be here amongst my contemporaries. You know, before Bernie, Jerry and I used to be the most famous ice cream guys, the most famous people from Vermont. You know, we're a little sad that now Bernie's become the most famous guy. But, you know, ice cream is good. But a president of the United States who truly believes in justice in all its flavors, that's euphoric. You know, I'm here to tell you that Bernie has inspired me. I've known Bernie for 40 years. First as when he was mayor of Burlington, and then as he became the congressman from Vermont, and then as he became our senator. And throughout that entire time, he has been honest, consistent, unwavering in his commitment to providing for people at the lower ends of the economic spectrum, of people who are oppressed, and building a country that truly embraces all of its citizens. You know, when he first started out in Burlington, he won an improbable election for mayor by 10 votes. And, you know, he defeated a long-term incumbent, old crony, business-favoring, machine politician. And when he got in, you know, the old cronies were still around, and they were all against him. They were all trying to sabotage him. And Bernie prevailed, and eventually he even won them over to his side. Because what he is about what America is about. Truth and justice. So, you know, when I was being introduced, they talked about the flavor I came out with last time Bernie ran, Bernie's Yearning. Well, I don't know if this is like real public media out there, or whether this is just it's real public media out there. They're gonna, well, I'll give you a little hint about the new flavor that's coming out. You know, it's just a little Vorspice, as they call it in Hollywood. The new flavor, I'm not really authorized to do this, but I'm going to do it anyhow because, you know, I feel at home with you guys. What can I say? The new flavor is called Bernie's Back. And it's got that same big chocolate disc on top, representing all the money that's going to the top 1%. But the ice cream this time is hot cinnamon for holding politicians' feet to the fire. And down the middle of the pint is a butter crunch toffee stick in the shape of a spine to demonstrate that Bernie's spine is straight, it ain't gonna waver, and he is going to do exactly what he's gonna tell you he's gonna do. You can believe him. He is the real thing. He is not some other politician windbag. What can I say? For 40 years, I'm here to tell you, he's the guy who's going to make it happen, who's going to transform our government from one that has continually favored the interests of the wealthy and corporations over the interests of everybody else. And now, I would like to introduce to you the one, the only, the original, the first guy who started to have small donor finance campaigns, Senator Bernie Sanders.
me thank all of doing a lot of talking. Let me thank all of you for coming out this morning. I want to touch on some issues, and then we'll open it up for your questions and your comments. But before I do that, I wanted to thank Ben Cohn, who I've known for a very, very long time. You know, way back when, in 1928, I think, Herbert Hoover ran for president. He said, if elected, there'll be a chicken in every pot. Well, we think in 2020, it's a Ben & Jerry's pint in every freezer. What do you think? And if that can't win me the election, I don't know what can, but no. We are here today to make it clear that we have got to do everything that we can to defeat the worst president in the history of this country. And when I talk about the worst president, I'm not just talking about somebody who tried to throw 32 million people off of the health care they had. I'm not just talking about somebody who told the American people that his tax plan would benefit everybody and not the rich, but 83% of the benefits end up over 10 years going to the top 1%. I'm not talking about one of the few people in the world who does not understand that climate change is real. I'm not talking about a president who promised the people of Nevada and the people of America that he would not cut Medicaid and not cut Medicare and not cut Social Security, but in his budgets, he did exactly that. So I'm not just talking about somebody who is a pathological liar. Now I gotta get to the really bad things. Those are his attributes. Now we get to the real bad thing, I mean, the ugliest thing that he has done, which no president that any of us can remember has done. There have been conservative presidents, no question about it. But what he is intentionally trying to do is win political votes by dividing the American people up based on the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our religion, or our gender, or our sexual orientation. That is an absolute outrage. What a president of the United States is supposed to be doing, no matter what your political views are, is you bring people together. We are all Americans. Don't divide us. So we have got to work as hard as we possibly can, in Nevada and Vermont and all over this country, to make certain that Donald Trump is not reelected. Let me just say this also. I want to talk a little bit about what kind of makes my campaign a bit different than other campaigns. I was here in Nevada, not here, but I was 4 years ago running all over your state, talking to people. And 4 years ago, the ideas that I introduced into the political debate at that point were seen by the establishment media, by the establishment political class, as radical and extreme ideas. Some of you may remember that. All right? People said, nobody, Bernie's a nice guy or he's not a nice guy, but his ideas don't make sense to anybody. Now, 4 years ago, I want you to remember the ideas that I talked about, which were seen to be crazy and radical. I said that if you work 40 hours a week, you should not live in poverty. We should raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Remember that? Well, 4 years ago, that was a radical idea. Well, guess what's happened since? 7 states have passed legislation raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and the U.S. Congress will likely do the same within the next couple of months. 4 years ago, I said that we have a crumbling infrastructure, that is our roads and our bridges and our wastewater systems and our water systems. We should invest $1 trillion and create 15 million decent paying jobs. And people say, $1 trillion, that's so much money. That's what everybody is talking about now, and that is exactly what we have got to do. This is America. Our roads and our bridges should not be collapsing. Now, 4 years ago, I said that, maybe 50, 60 years ago, if you graduated high school, you can go out and make it into the middle class. You didn't need a higher education. But what I said 4 years ago is that the world and the economy and education and technology have all changed. And that for the young people of this country today, if they're going to make it into the middle class, if they're going to get a decent job in a competitive global economy, they need, regardless of their income, a higher education or technical training. And that's why I proposed the idea of making public colleges and universities tuition free. And substantially reducing student debt. Okay? 4 years ago, that was a radical idea, not so radical anymore. 4 years ago, you had folks out there, Republicans, and I have to tell you, to be honest, some Democrats, talking about cutting Social Security. Now, I want you all to know, which I suspect you already do, that when you see somebody on television telling you, we need entitlement reform, you all know what they're talking about. Okay. They're talking about cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And a number of years ago, I helped form a caucus in the United States Senate called the Defending Social Security Caucus. All right? Because I know and you know that in Nevada and in Vermont and all over this country, there are people 80, 85, 90 years of age who are trying to survive on $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 a year Social Security. And my God, I have no idea in the world how anybody at 85 or 90 can survive on $12,000, $13,000, or $14,000. But there are millions of folks who are trying to do that. So no, I helped lead the fight in the United States Senate to say very clearly, no, we are not going to cut Social Security, we're going to expand Social Security benefits for those who need it. And we do that by lifting the cap on taxable income. All right? So right now you got somebody who's making $10 million a year, somebody who's making $100,000 or $160,000 a year. They're both paying the same amount into Social Security because there's a cap. You can't tax income above a certain level. Okay, we're going to lift that cap starting at $250,000. Small number of people will pay the same percentage of their income in taxes as somebody making $80,000 a year. And when you do that, you can raise benefits and extend the life of Social Security for another 50 years. Okay. Then there's another issue that I have been working on for a very, very long time. And that is taking on the greed and in many cases the illegal behavior of the pharmaceutical industry in this country. Last year, the 10 major drug companies in America, hold your hats here, 10 major drug companies in America made $69 billion in profit. 10 companies, $69 billion in profit. And you know how they managed to make so much money? Because they are charging you by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Do you all know that? All right, I want to tell you a story. Way back when I was representing Vermont in the U.S. House, back in 1999, I think, I took a busload of women from northern Vermont, from the St. Albans area, Franklin County, who were dealing with breast cancer. These were mostly working class women dealing with breast cancer. And we took about an hour and a half trip up to Montreal, Canada. You know why we went to Montreal, Canada? It wasn't for a sightseeing tour. Why did we go? This is what happened. And we had arranged all of this stuff beforehand. And I'll never forget this. One of these things, that stays in your mind. We went into this pharmacy in Montreal, and these were women, working class women who were struggling with breast cancer. No easy thing to deal with. Walked into the pharmacy, and a widely prescribed breast cancer drug called tamoxifen, okay? They went in there, they purchased that drug, same bottle, same damn thing, for 1/10 of the price they were paying in Vermont. 1/10 of the price. Okay. Now, out of that trip, I was the first member of Congress to do something like that. Other members did it, senators did it. And today, there are millions of Americans who, unfortunately, are having to buy their medicine online or even visiting other countries to buy the medicine they need. In the United States of America, we should not be forced to pay the highest prices in the world. We should not be in a situation, listen to this if you can believe it. Today, 1 out of 5 Americans who walks into a doctor's office and gets a prescription for their illness cannot afford to fill that prescription. Today in America, many of you may have had this experience. People walk into the pharmacy and the price of your medicine is doubled. And you say, well, why is it doubled? And the answer is, they can double it, they can triple it, they can do anything they want because there is no legislation to control it. And the reason for that deals with the broader issue of a corrupt political system in which big money interests dominate what goes on in the United States Congress and in legislatures all over this country. Right? So imagine that. You have people dealing with diabetes, dealing with cancer, dealing with heart disease, dealing with Alzheimer's, dealing with all of the terrible illnesses that people are coping with. And these drug companies who are making unbelievable profits, who are paying their CEOs outrageous compensation packages, they can raise their price to any level they want. Now, we have 3 approaches that we are going to use to substantially lower drug prices in this country. First one is pretty easy. It says that Medicare should negotiate drug prices with the pharmaceutical industry. Now, you got a pricing system in the pharmaceutical world which is so Byzantine, ain't nobody understands it. Every hospital pays a different price. Medicaid pays a different price than Medicare pays a different price than the VA. In fact, the VA, Veterans Administration, has for years negotiated prices with the drug companies. That is why their prices are the lowest in the country. And that's what we have to do with Medicare. Second area that we can make some progress is I am not a great believer in unfettered free trade. I should tell you that because I think it has hurt working people a whole lot. But if we are importing products from all over the world, do not tell me that we cannot safely import low-cost prescription drugs made by the same exact manufacturer from Canada or the UK or France. Of course we can. Distributors and pharmacists can do that, and they can resell those products at a substantially lower price. The third area, which is probably the simplest, and kind of what Canada does right now, is to, and we've introduced legislation to do this, which simply looks at what other countries around the world are paying. That's all. And we determine, we tell the drug companies, this is what you will receive. And if we do that, and I will do that as President of the United States, we will lower the cost of prescription drugs in this country by half. By half. Cut it in half. Now, you may think that that is a radical idea. It is not a radical idea, because that's what people all over the world are already paying. So that's what we're going to do, and I think we're going to save a lot of lives when we do that. Just a few more points. I want to talk about the economy. The economy today has very low unemployment. That's good. When Obama came in 2010, after that horrible, horrible Wall Street crash, unemployment was 10%. By the time he left, it was down to 4.5%. That was real progress under difficult times. Today, it is even lower at 3.5%. That's good. You got Trump saying, oh, the economy is booming, it's booming, it's doing very well. It ain't doing so great for ordinary Americans. You got half of the people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. You know what that means, paycheck to paycheck? I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. I know what that means. And it means if you're a worker in Nevada or Vermont and your car breaks down, and you need a $500 repair. Well, you know what? If you don't have that $500, you can't get to work. And if you can't get to work, what happens? You get fired. You get fired, you can't take care of your kids. There are people all over this country today who are sick. You know, they're feeling ill. They feel ill week after week, month after month. They're afraid to go to the doctor. You know why? Because they're going to find out that they have a terrible illness. They're going to have to go to the hospital, and they cannot afford to pay a $50,000 or $100,000 hospital bill. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Half of our people should not be forced to live paycheck to paycheck. 40% of older workers in America, 55 years of age or older, you know how much money they have in the bank as they await retirement? Zero. Scared to death. What happens when they're 65 and they lose their jobs? Meanwhile, while the middle class for 40 years has been shrinking, anybody here know how much the average worker in America today makes in real inflation accounted for dollars compared to what he or she made 43 years ago? Anyone know? The same thing. So you know why people are angry? They're angry because after 43 years of an huge explosion of technology, increase in worker productivity, they're going nowhere in a hurry, and they are very worried about their kids. Right? And you know why they're worried about their kids? Because they should be worried about their kids. Because for the first time in the modern history of this country, our younger generation, if we do not turn it around, will likely have a lower standard of living than their parents. Meanwhile, while the middle class struggles, while we got 40 million people living in poverty, the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 92%. The wealthiest 3 families in America own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people. Got that? This is more wealth inequality than at any time since the 1920s. And today in America, while people are working 2 or 3 jobs to pay the bills, 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. And the reason that the rich get much richer is that they don't put their money under the mattress. They invest it in politics, which is why, by the way, if elected president, I will do everything I can to overturn that disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United. I may be old-fashioned, but I believe that democracy is one person, one vote, not billionaires buying election. Last point I want to make. 4 years ago, when I was in Nevada and all over this country, I said what at that point seemed to be a radical idea. But that idea turns out not to be so radical. And it is that health care is a human right, not a privilege. The United States, as many of you may know, is the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. And the result of that in our dysfunctional healthcare system is that today, 34 million Americans have no health insurance, and far more than that are underinsured with high co-payments and high deductibles, which means that even if you have insurance, you still don't go to the doctor when you should because you can't afford the deductible or the co-payment. Meanwhile, and it's important that we all understand this as we debate healthcare. The United States spends twice as much per person on healthcare as do the people of any other country. So let me say it again. 34 million uninsured, even more underinsured. We pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. And at the end of all that, we end up spending as a nation twice as much per person on healthcare as any other major country, all of whom guarantee healthcare to all people. And that is why 4 years ago, I began the discussion. And as president, I intend to end the discussion to finally bring a Medicare for all single-payer program to the United States of America. I want to say one last word on Medicare. Medicare is a very strong program. Medicare is a popular program, but Medicare is not a perfect program and has to be improved. Right now, Medicare for seniors, people 65 or older, does not cover dental care. Am I right? It does not cover hearing aids. Am I right? Does not cover eyeglasses. The Medicare for All proposal that we have introduced will cover dental care, eyeglasses, and hearing aids. So let me just conclude by saying this. We are living in an unprecedented moment in American history, and that's just the simple truth. We have a president who is a pathological liar, a president who is trying to move us into an authoritarian form of society, who either does not understand the Constitution of the United States or has disdain for the Constitution, a president who is trying to divide us up in a very un-American way. So our job is to bring our people together. Our job is to fight for economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. And that is what my campaign is about. We have now over 1 million volunteers in every state, every congressional district in this country who are prepared to stand up to defeat Trump and to create the kind of country based on justice that you and I know we can become. Thank you all very much.